Amari had always been a hard-working and loving husband. He worked long hours at his job as an accountant to provide for his wife, Akua, and their two children. However, lately he had noticed a change in Akua's behavior. She was distant, secretive, and often received phone calls she would take in another room. Amari's suspicions grew, but he had no concrete evidence to confront her. One evening, after another day of evasive answers and mysterious phone calls, Amari decided he needed a plan. Confronting Akua without proof would only lead to more arguments. He had heard stories about people pretending to be blind to uncover the truth, and while it sounded extreme, he felt desperate enough to try anything. Amari made up his mind. He would fake blindness to catch Akua in the act. It was a risky plan, but he hoped it would reveal the truth about her behavior. He planned every detail, from how he would lose his vision in a supposed accident to how he would navigate his daily life as a blind man. The day of the accident arrived. Amari staged a fall at home, ensuring Akua witnessed the event. He went through the motions of visiting the hospital, receiving a diagnosis, and coming back home with a white cane. Akua was shocked and concerned, but Amari noticed a flicker of something else in her eyes: fear. Amari began his new life as a blind man. He pretended to struggle with simple tasks, making Akua believe he was completely dependent on her. At night, he would practice moving around the house silently, memorizing every step and every piece of furniture. He had to be convincing or his plan would fail. Akua's behavior didn't change immediately, but Amari was patient. He knew it would take time for her to let her guard down. Days turned into weeks, and Amari started noticing subtle changes. Akua would leave the house more frequently, often with vague excuses. Amari decided it was time to start his investigation. Amari's first breakthrough came one afternoon when Akua left for what she claimed was a yoga class. Pretending to be asleep, Amari waited for her to leave before quickly dressing and following her. He had learned to navigate the house silently and used his white cane to move around without arousing suspicion from neighbors. He watched from a distance as Akua got into a car with a man Amari didn't recognize. They drove off, and Amari hailed a cab to follow them. His heart raced as they stopped at a hotel. Akua and the man entered, and Amari felt a pang of betrayal. However, he needed more concrete evidence. Amari waited outside the hotel for hours. When Akua finally emerged, she was alone. Amari quickly returned home, arriving before Akua to maintain his ruse. That night, he lay in bed, thinking about his next move. He knew he needed to gather more information. Over the next few days, Amari placed a voice-activated recorder in Akua's car. He hoped it would capture conversations that would give him the evidence he needed. Each night, he would retrieve the recorder and listen to the day's recordings, piecing together the puzzle of Akua's deceit. One recording stood out. It was a conversation between Akua and the man from the hotel. They talked about meeting again and mentioned a name, Mark. Amari now had a name, but he needed to know more. He used his connections to do some digging and discovered Mark had a criminal record. This new information added a layer of danger to the situation. Amari realized he needed help. He confided in his best friend, Kofi, who was shocked by the lengths Amari had gone to uncover the truth. Kofi agreed to help, and together, they began to formulate a plan to catch Akua and Mark red-handed. Amari and Kofi decided to stake out the hotel where Akua and Mark had met. They spent several nights in a car parked discreetly across the street, hoping to catch the couple in the act. Their patience paid off when they saw Akua and Mark entering the hotel together late one night. Kofi used his camera to take photos, ensuring they had undeniable evidence of Akua's infidelity. Amari felt a mix of anger and sadness as he watched his wife with another man. However, the deeper they dug, the more they realized this was not just a simple affair. Mark was involved in illegal activities, and Akua seemed to be a part of it. One night, Amari and Kofi followed Mark after he left the hotel. They trailed him to an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. Mark met with several shady characters, exchanging briefcases and cash. It was clear that Mark was part of a larger criminal operation, and Akua was somehow involved. Amari's suspicions were confirmed when he overheard Akua talking on the phone with Mark. She mentioned the shipment and the money indicating her involvement in whatever illegal activities Mark was orchestrating. Amari felt a surge of anger and betrayal, but knew he had to stay calm and focused. Kofi suggested they gather more evidence before going to the police. They needed to ensure they had enough to bring down the entire operation and protect Amari's family. Amari agreed, though it was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain his facade of blindness and ignorance. As they continued their surveillance, they discovered Mark's involvement in human trafficking. The stakes were higher than Amari had ever imagined. He realized he was not only fighting for his marriage, but also for the lives of innocent people. Amari and Kofi decided to escalate their efforts. They needed to infiltrate the warehouse and gather direct evidence of the human trafficking operation. They knew this would be dangerous, but it was the only way to save the victims and expose the criminal network. One night, they parked near the warehouse and waited for the perfect opportunity. They saw Mark and his associates unloading a van filled with terrified young women. Kofi took photos and videos, ensuring they had undeniable proof. Amari's heart broke seeing the fear in the women's eyes, but it also fueled his determination. As they gathered more evidence, they realized they needed inside information. Amari devised a plan to get close to Mark. He pretended to stumble upon Mark at a local bar, where he struck up a conversation. Over time, Amari gained Mark's trust, using his charm and wit. Mark, unaware of Amari's true intentions, began sharing details about the operation. Meanwhile, Kofi continued surveillance, documenting every interaction and transaction. They collected enough evidence to take to the authorities. However, they were aware of the corruption within the police force. They needed to find a trustworthy officer who could handle such a sensitive case. Amari reached out to an old friend, Inspector Mensah, known for his integrity and dedication. Mensah agreed to help, but warned Amari about the risks involved. They set a date for the raid, coordinating with a special task force to ensure the operation's success. As the day of the raid approached, Amari couldn't help but confront Akua. He showed her the evidence, hoping she would explain herself. Akua broke down, revealing she had been blackmailed by Mark. He had threatened their children if she didn't cooperate. She had been trapped, unable to find a way out. Amari decided to trust Akua. They needed to work together to save their family and the trafficking victims. Akua provided valuable information about Mark's operation, including the timing of the next shipment and the layout of the warehouse. Amari, Kofi, and Inspector Mensah finalized their plan. On the night of the raid, Amari and Akua played their parts perfectly, luring Mark into a false sense of security. They met with him at a secluded spot, pretending to discuss business. Meanwhile, the task force surrounded the warehouse, ready to strike. The tension was palpable as Amari and Akua kept Mark distracted. Suddenly, Mensah and his team stormed the warehouse, arresting the traffickers and freeing the victims. Mark realized too late that he had been betrayed. He attempted to flee, but Amari tackled him, holding him down until the police arrived. As Mark was led away in handcuffs, Amari felt a mix of relief and triumph. The nightmare was finally over, but the emotional scars remained. The trafficked women were taken to safety, and the authorities began the process of dismantling the entire operation. Akua, though relieved, faced the consequences of her involvement. She cooperated fully with the investigation, providing crucial information that led to more arrests. Amari stood by her side, knowing they had a long road ahead to rebuild their trust and heal their family. The days following the raid were a whirlwind of emotions for Amari and Akua. The media caught wind of the story, and their small community was abuzz with the news. Amari and Akua tried to shield their children from the worst of it, but it was impossible to keep everything hidden. Amari and Akua attended several debriefing sessions with Inspector Mensah and the Special Task Force. They recounted their experiences, helping to piece together the full extent of Mark's criminal network. Akua's testimony proved invaluable, and her cooperation earned her some leniency in the eyes of the law. Despite the progress, Amari struggled with his emotions. He had always seen Akua as his rock, and now he had to reconcile his love for her with the pain of her betrayal. They sought counseling to navigate their complex feelings, hoping to find a path to forgiveness and healing. Just as Amari and Akua began to find some semblance of normalcy, a new threat loomed. Amari received an anonymous letter containing a veiled threat against his family. The letter warned him to stop cooperating with the authorities and to retract any statements implicating Mark's associates. Amari immediately took the letter to Inspector Mensah, who assured him they would increase security around his family. Mensah also suspected that remnants of Mark's criminal network were trying to intimidate Amari into silence. Amari, however, was resolute. He had come too far to back down now. Meanwhile, Akua's mental state deteriorated. She was plagued by guilt and fear for her family's safety. Amari tried to reassure her, but the constant tension took its toll. Their counseling sessions became even more crucial as they navigated this new wave of fear and uncertainty. One evening, while Amari was at work, Akua noticed a suspicious car parked outside their house. She called Kofi, who rushed over with his camera, documenting the vehicle and its occupants. Kofi's investigation revealed the car was linked to a known associate of Mark's. Inspector Mensah decided it was time to take more drastic measures. He arranged for Amari, Akua, and their children to stay at a safe house while they investigated the threats. The safe house was a secluded property, monitored by police around the clock. At the safe house, Amari and Akua tried to keep life as normal as possible for their children. They continued their counseling sessions remotely and leaned on each other for support. Amari's resolve was unwavering, but he worried about the long-term impact on his family. In the midst of their turmoil, Amari received a call from his estranged brother, Akwasi. They hadn't spoken in years due to a falling out over family matters. Akwasi had seen the news and reached out, offering his support. Despite their differences, Amari felt a sense of relief reconnecting with his brother. Akwasi visited the safe house, bringing a sense of normalcy and comfort. However, his arrival also brought an unexpected revelation. Akwasi revealed that years ago he had crossed paths with Mark and had been aware of his criminal activities. He had kept silent out of fear for his own safety and regret for his involvement in minor illegal activities during his younger years. Amari was furious and hurt that Akwasi had withheld such critical information. Akua, too, felt betrayed by this new layer of deceit. Akwasi insisted he had changed and wanted to make amends by helping to bring down Mark's remaining associates. Despite his anger, Amari decided to use Akwasi's knowledge to their advantage. With Akwasi's help, they identified key members of Mark's network who had evaded capture. Akwasi provided details about their operations, allowing Inspector Mensah to plan another raid. Amari and Akua's relationship with Akwasi remained strained, but they worked together for the greater good. The new information led to several arrests, significantly weakening the criminal network. The police also uncovered evidence of corruption within local law enforcement, leading to a broader investigation. As the immediate threat diminished, Amari and Akua began to feel a sense of relief. They knew they had a long way to go in rebuilding their lives, but they were determined to move forward. Things seemed to be improving for Amari and Akua. They were beginning to heal, and the constant threat had diminished. However, their sense of security was shattered when Amari discovered that one of their closest allies had been feeding information to Mark's associates. Kofi, who had been instrumental in their investigation, was approached by a desperate Amari. Amari had noticed discrepancies in the information they shared and the actions of the criminal network. He confronted Kofi, who reluctantly admitted to being blackmailed by Mark's associates. They had threatened his family, forcing him to leak information. Amari felt a deep sense of betrayal. Kofi had been like a brother to him, and his involvement was a crushing blow. Akua, too, was devastated, as they had trusted Kofi with their lives. However, they realized that Kofi was also a victim of Mark's ruthless network. Amari and Akua decided to confront the situation head-on. They worked with Inspector Mensah to create a plan that would use the false information Kofi was forced to give as a trap for Mark's associates. Kofi, determined to make amends, agreed to help. They set up a sting operation, feeding Kofi specific details to pass on. The plan involved a fake shipment of valuable goods that Mark's associates were desperate to get their hands on. Amari and Akua, along with Mensah and his team, prepared for the showdown. The night of the operation was tense. Amari and Akua stayed hidden, listening as the police monitored the situation. When Mark's associates arrived, they were met with a fully armed task force. The operation was a success, leading to the arrest of several key members of the network. Kofi's role in the operation redeemed him in Amari and Akua's eyes. They knew that trust would take time to rebuild, but they appreciated his bravery in helping to bring down the criminals. As the dust settled from the sting operation, Amari and Akua hoped to return to a semblance of normalcy. However, the trial of Mark and his associates brought everything back to the forefront. Amari and Akua were called to testify, their story becoming a central piece in the prosecution's case. The courtroom was a place of high tension. Amari and Akua faced their tormentors, recounting the harrowing details of their ordeal. The defense tried to discredit them, but their evidence was overwhelming. The bravery of the trafficked women, who also testified, added powerful testimony to the case. The trial lasted for weeks, with every day bringing new revelations and emotional challenges. Amari and Akua leaned on each other for support, knowing that their fight was not just for justice, but for the future of their family. During the trial, they received unexpected support from the community. Neighbors and friends who had once judged Akua for her involvement now rallied around them, understanding the complexity of their situation. This support gave them the strength to continue. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. The courtroom was packed as the judge read the sentences. Mark and his associates received lengthy prison terms, and the corrupt officials within the police force were exposed and prosecuted. Justice was served, but the journey had left its mark on Amari and Akua. With the trial behind them, Amari and Akua focused on healing. They continued their counseling, worked on rebuilding trust, and spent quality time with their children. The trauma of their experience was a heavy burden, but they faced it together, stronger and more united than ever before. Kofi too found redemption. His role in bringing down the network earned him respect, and he worked tirelessly to repair his relationship with Amari and Akua. The three friends, bound by their shared ordeal, emerged closer and more resilient.